Why, yes, Craig. Yes, we can, in fact, just start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're starting 18 minutes early. You know what? Just give me a coffee, dude.
Yeah.
I'm the bagel king. Get me a bagel. You were talking about Danishes earlier, and I got hungry. So
Bagels are good.
Related to bagels, but okay.
yeah,
What did Danish kings have to do with food?
you were talking
Well.
about Danishes, and I was like, I want a Danish, and actually, I want a bagel. So Greg's gonna get me a bagel.
Craig, don't record this.
All right.
Did he walk
All
away
right,
already?
starting the podcast.
Bitch.
Yeah, this might be the worst intro yet. We've tried. And we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay, joined with my co-host Christopher, Christian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
God damn it! The simple instruction: just do it. One day.
You got your one day already.
So Christian, where can they find us on social medias?
You can find the Grumpy Dungeon Masters on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or wherever else you get your podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can see us streaming live on Twitch TV on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. And furthermore, one day, one glorious day, a day we are all waiting for, a day we are all looking forward to, maybe before Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, maybe before
Shots fired.
Half-Life 3 comes out,
Whoa!
Whoa!
rolling into your Twitch stream like a
Charging, buddy.
will be the much awaited glorious return of Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher's D&D 5e Waterdeep Worldborn Dead campaign. Stay
I feel
tuned.
kind of
You won't want to
personally
miss
attacked. Feel very personally attacked here. I
it.
don't know. I don't know how to feel anymore.
I know how to feel. I feel like you should be streaming your game.
It should be. You guys want to play?
Can't.
Busy.
It's on Saturdays.
Yeah, I typically do something other than gaming on Saturdays.
Oh, right, and it's D&D 5e.
All right.
5.5, sir.
Same thing.
Reportedly.
No, it will be 5.0, not 5.5.
Really?
Yes, my wife refuses to play 5.5.
You have my attention.
The wife refuses to play 5.5. So
Listen, I'll at least tune in. That's all I can give you.
right.
Yep, I will do that.
Yeah,
as I have
yeah.
before.
Yep.
All right, let's get off that embarrassing topic and get on to a more terrible, horrible topic.
Which one are we starting with?
I would
Alright.
like to hear, since you've already hyped this up, I would like to hear about Caverns of Thracia. Because
Okay.
you've hyped it up offline to us, so we haven't heard the full story.
It'll at least be a short story, 5 minutes or less. So get this out of the way. That way we can get into the long topics.
Timer's running.
Yeah, time's running. I'll take as long as I need, damn it. So I was running Caverns of Thracia this past weekend.
Are we over
And
yet?
it can be. I could just hit stop recording.
You can't. You're not the intern.
Well, okay. I can push Craig into the button that makes it stop it. So anyway, I'm running Caverns of Thracia. I've been running this thing, I don't know, almost 6 months at this point, and somehow magically the players have not died in Dungeon Crawl Classics, which has to be some sort of record. They've had a few very close calls, but nobody had actually died until this weekend.
Until now.
Yes, our beloved friend Jacob, aka Muffin, who we oftentimes stream video games with, bit the dust. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. His character's name was Crank. He was a halfling that I often referred to as the luckiest unlucky halfling of all. He had a luck, like a base luck score, I think, of 8. His luck also applied to every one of his saving throws, which is not normal. So he already had like negatives to his saving throws. But he had survived some serious encounters. He had gone toe-to-toe with an earth elemental, got smashed, didn't die. He had gone toe-to-toe with a stone golem, got smashed, and didn't die. So I'm beginning to think this guy's invincible. You know, he gets the shit kicked
So you're
out of him.
ramping it up. You got to throw something heavier at him.
I did. I threw sturges at him.
Oh no! Oh, this is because of what happened to your character in Christian's game, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's definitely payback on somebody not related at all to anything that happened in that Shadow Dark game.
Listen, Grumpy Dungeon Masters can take out whoever they want. Just saying.
Yeah, no, it was the weirdest thing. So they had gotten into a bed of sturges earlier in the night, and Muffin had got stabbed by one of them. Took like 8 damage or something. He actually got critted by it, but he was fine. He had 11 hit points left. No big deal. So they go further down into the dungeon, and they cross over a bridge by a river, and he decides to go around the corner to investigate the waterfall around the corner.
He's the rogue, right, or the thief?
He's a halfling, so he's technically he's a halfling. Like they're not fighters; they're kind of fighter.
I'm not familiar with DCC, so it's more OSR style where he's a halfling, so he's kind of a fighter thief.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So he just wanted to go investigate the waterfall. So he walks about 40 feet away from his party around the corner, barely outside of the light. And he's staring at the waterfall. And the words out of his mouth are, this is really peaceful. And I gave him like 15 seconds or so to respond or do anything. And then he just stayed there. I was like, okay, so you just stand here? Yep, I just stay here and look at the waterfall. All right, roll initiative.
No.
And he was in a room with 10 sturges.
No.
There were no other targets because everybody was around the corner.
Did he just like fail his perception, or I mean, they just ambush him?
Yeah. That was the way the encounter was set up.
Oh no.
So yeah, they attacked. Only 3 of them hit, but he was already down hit points. I rolled enough. Yeah. I did exactly 11 damage, so he went down to the ground, and they start sucking his stamina from him. He starts losing constitution.
Yeah.
And so in DCC, whatever your level is how many rounds you have to actually get healing. And the cleric got to him on the second round and failed the fucking roll to heal.
Oh, it has to get a roll. Okay.
Yeah, it is a spellcasting roll. Yeah, she failed it. She might have made it, but he was under a curse of the death god because last game session he robbed a statue. Okay. So she was rolling a D16 instead of a D20. Long live Crank, aka Muffin's character. So he made a new character. He is now a wizard. Now we have 2 wizards in the party.
I was hoping he'd go with Ratchet or something.
Oh, that would have been nice. No, he's playing a wizard named Sandal. I'll let you figure it out. Yeah. Yep. That's what happens when you just throw him on the spot. He had to roll up a character real quick. So
it reminds me of a situation that I was in, and one of the few times I was actually playing D&D. A bunch of sturges attacked us as we were going through like a swamp-like area, and I was playing my Hexblade Warlock at the time, which was a black dragonborn. And I think what happened was like I had basically stood in front of everybody, or I was leading the path through the swamp, and they all stuck into me. And so I was like, shit, I have all these sturges in me, really no way to get out. And I was like, hey, DM, can I since my breath attack is just a line and it's acid, can I just shoot it straight up in my square and then stand underneath it and have it just rain down upon me and hopefully get all the sturges that are stuck into me? He was like, yeah, sure, why not?
That's creative. Yeah, all right.
I shot the acid up. They all came down. They all made dex saves, and I think I killed myself with the acid. I'm just sitting there bleeding out. All the sturges still in me because half of them saved and didn't get killed, but I took some of them out. That's all that matters.
Yep, got a few of them with yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's a good story. I'm glad Muffin's enjoying it. I'm glad you finally killed someone in DCC.
Oh, I'm sure there's more to come. They narrowly avoided another death shortly after that.
Well, usually with those systems, like once people starts dying, everyone just starts collapsing,
Yeah.
So I'll see how it goes. I had a fun game this week. Not really Adventures League, but I actually had worked out with Synergy to run a youth game, like an intro youth game to D&D. So this Sunday, I ran a learn to play D&D game with 5 kids between the age ranges of 9 and 13. It was chaos incarnate.
I was gonna say, God bless you for trying.
It was fun. Like 2 of them were basically kids that I had known. One was one of the other DM's sons, so he knew how to play, had played a bunch. Another was a kid that shows up to Adventures League. And then another kid had played 2014, but hadn't played the new edition. One was my daughter, and one was some kid that I didn't know at all. And it was, kids are kids. They were very chaotic. All their parents were there, so they were like, kind of keeping them in check. Like, hey, stop running around the table, So I didn't have to do that, but I did have to focus on them. We rolled up their stats. We didn't assign. We went through and assigned like what their stat attributes were, but we didn't go through skills or anything. I told them what their AC was. I told them what their weapons were and what they had to hit and everything, so we could just start playing. But I did want to give them the experience of rolling up their stats to begin with. My daughter got 2 17s, a 16 and a 15, and then like a 10 and a 12 on her stats.
She has already rolled better than you ever will.
Yeah, she will. And she's playing an elf cleric. And yeah, they did fine. They were creative with their solutions to kind of work through some stuff. Every once in a while, they were getting a little too rambunctious, and I had to like focus them on a decision. Like, you guys want to go to town? Do you guys want to go after the bonfire, or do you guys want to go after the trail to the right that you guys found? Like, what do you guys want to do? And they would take little votes and make a decision. Dan, I used your idea to have the evil Smokey the Bear.
Oh yeah.
But basically, by the time they reached to it, it was like 30 minutes left in the time frame that I wanted. So it's just a bear that breathed fire. No real story behind it, just a bear that breathed fire.
Cool.
Okay. But they still killed it. And the second that the bear died, they're like, okay, we want to skin it, cut off its claws, harvest its meat, and take whatever organ that made it breathe fire out of it. And I was like, Jesus, all right.
You're raising butchers.
So they skinned it, and it got like a 24 survival check to skin it. So I'm like, all right, you got a bear rug.
That's some kids that played a bunch of Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They didn't get any claws, but then they were like, I want to get the organ that makes it breathe fire. And I was like, oh shit. I got one of those prepared. I don't know what to say. So I had it just be this magic ring that was like stuck in its throat that let it breathe fire. And the kid has it, and he's going to look into it, and they all want to play next month. So I got 2 games I get to run now.
Basically it lets them cast Burning Hands.
Yeah, that's essentially just all I figured. It's something to cast Burning Hands. One of the people that was working the shop asked me before I left, it's like, hey, what are the stats on that bear? I want to use it. I was like, it's just a bear with a burning hands ring in its mouth. That's all it was. He's like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love
Anyone else have amazing stories of D&D or tabletop that they played before we get into the utter hell that is D&D Beyond?
Are we doing that now?
I don't wanna.
Let's do it. Get it over with.
Can we skip it? Oh, can we hold on a second? Can we have a little bit lighthearted break before we get to that?
That was a lighthearted break.
Yep.
Yeah, but and aside from D&D.
Okay, let's have it aside from D&D.
Okay, I sent this to you guys a few minutes ago, but Do you guys? None of you guys are Catholic, right?
No.
No.
Okay. Do you know what an encyclical is?
No.
No. Okay. So a papal encyclical is a papal document, sort of a letter from the Pope to the Catholic faithful in a certain area. Usually, it's directed to like patriarchs, primates, archbishops, bishops, and so on in the Holy See. Today, Pope Leo released a papal encyclical. And would you like to know who he referenced in that papal encyclical?
I know where this is going. Why don't you tell us?
J.R.R. Tolkien. In the notation, in paragraph 213 of Magnifica Humanitas, he made Middle-earth part of the official Catholic social teaching. In chapter 5, we find this footnote. From Return of the King, part 3, book 5, chapter 9, New York, 1965. Right there in the papal encyclical, the full quote is, in the words of a protagonist in one of his novels, described our responsibility this way. It is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. So, the Pope, the current
Quoting
Pope,
Gandalf.
referenced fucking Gandalf. Didn't just reference him, quoted him, which is just icing on the cake.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I just thought it was a great aside. It's tangentially related because of Middle Earth, Gandalf, and everything like that. But it's just kind of another way, a fantastical way of saying a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they never shall sit, which goes back to like ancient Greek philosophers and Roman. Marcus Aurelius said something very similar, but. But he doesn't quote Marcus Aurelius. He doesn't quote Seneca. He quotes fucking Gandalf. Which I just fucking love.
Which is amazing. Like of all the people he could have done to actually quote Gandalf that's just you know what? I didn't think a Chicago Pope would be this cool. Maybe I should turn Catholic.
I mean, let's not get hasty. But yeah, I just thought that was great. And the encyclical he was discussing, it was all about AI and how the Catholic Church should respond to AI. Dive into it further if you want to. It's a deep dive and very philosophical. But that was just one of the quotes from it. I'm actually going to try to read some of it later, but I just thought that'd be great. So let's hop on to something less humorous and uplifting than that, and go with D&D Beyond.
All right. Christian, you're the one that brought this to our attention.
I did.
Do you want to cover it? I did put the link to the rewards, which we'll soon speak about, in our podcast chat. So if you're, or you can just go to D&D Beyond and find the list yourself, listeners, that is. Yeah, why don't you go through and tell us about what's happening now?
So they made an announcement that, obviously to try to boost paying subscribers, but they made an announcement that D&D Beyond is now going to start offering regular drops. By drops, they mean content for their paying tier subscribers. So stuff that is not going to be in books, stuff that you just get as long as you keep your paid subscription. You get these extra stuff that free members and people that play physical games will not get, at least as far as we know right now.
So what you're saying is that only if I'm a DM who's paying for running shit on D&D Beyond am I getting this cool drop. Not if I'm just a player.
See, that's the thing. Some of this, the first drop they mentioned is all for DMs. It's an encounter with full map and lighting and fog of war and tokens and all set up for DMs to use. But the second drop,
your average fucking module from Roll20. Cool. Get what the picture 5 years ago, guys. Well done.
Your second drop is for players. It is giving them backgrounds and feats and spells and subclasses, and they mentioned even potentially dropping new classes in some of these. So they are now going to be gating some player content behind a digital subscription. Not just a regular purchase thing that should have been part of a book, but this is now a regular content drop rhythm that they're going to be doing on a monthly cadence, so that if you are somebody that buys your books only, you will not get all this. Players that that pay for a subscription will get to build characters that other people will not be able to build, including free users of D&D Beyond.
So what you're saying is, I as a free user of D&D Beyond, because I will never be paying them, I will never see this information. And if Christopher Waples, my DM, who pays for D&D Beyond like a fool, does get all this cool content, and we have somebody else in my party that wants to be, I don't know, like a Mystic Theurge, but D&D 5.5 version, wherein I can level up in both cleric and wizard spells because it's super cool, but I'm paying for it.
So
I can't be that.
That's correct.
Let me go through some of the rewards more specifically to kind of like explain what they're giving. So for as long as I've used D&D Beyond now, which has to be near the start of 5th edition, okay, I've had a D&D Beyond account, all right, and starting, I think, let's see what the first drop was. Yeah, back in 2021. They would give you monthly perks for paying for a D&D account. So the very first reward that they gave was unvaulted portrait frames, subscriber perk backgrounds, and the Sanguine dice set. And it's been that way ever since 2021, where you've been getting cool dice, getting cool portraits. So like when Rime of the Frostmaiden came out, there were ice-themed portraits, which really were just pictures from the book. But then they had, backgrounds were just pictures from the book. So they had these backgrounds that were themed. Your character sheet was like ice-themed as well, and your portraits that kind of show up when you use the encounter builder and everything within, like the tools within D&D Beyond, your portrait would show up as your character, and then like you could have like a mystical ice wind blowing around the portrait or something along those lines. And they've had hundreds of these.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
that's all just cosmetic.
You know what that is? That's fucking skins in an FPS.
Yes.
It doesn't affect the game at all. It just gives you cool stuff.
I'm getting there. Don't jump ahead. So the last set was the April Fool's set.
Fucking jump ahead.
And then starting in May of this year, the first drop included the drop-in encounter Bandit Ambush, which I'm fine with. You're using the D&D Beyond VTT. It's already imported in there. You got a bunch of tokens generated just for that. So if you're using the D&D Beyond VTT, that's cool. It makes it easier for DM to run stuff. They have Spellbound backdrops, a nature sticker pack, which again, the stickers work for the VTT. And the next thing is the Locations and Vista Revels bundle. I believe those are maps within the VTT. The 4th edition map bundle, which are just more maps for the VTT, which is, again, all great stuff. Just free for, I guess, not really free, but you have an account, you're getting this stuff.
And hold on a second. So Roll20 has also been doing that for years. For if you have a paid account, you get, especially if you're DM, you get packs of stuff, or a module happens to be free. A third party, thing like Griffin's Saddlebag was free for a month or something like that.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Right,
that's not official D&D content that is paywalled behind something.
And now I'm about to get to the issue. Okay, the issue is that along with all these drop-in encounters and all these cool things that are just part of the tool set of D&D Beyond, the things they added in this release as well are 5 spells, 6 feats, and a background that you can only use if you have the subscriber perk and it's unlocked. Now, once it's on,
Your DM allows it.
I couldn't figure this out. I did try to go through the character builder because the character builder does, like when you build a character in D&D Beyond, like the very first page has all the toggles, and maybe they updated. I'm checking real quick, but you can toggle on and off content. Like if you want to toggle off like the Rick and Morty book or 2014 content, that is something that you can do fairly easily. But I didn't see a place where you could toggle this stuff on and off. So all these extra feats and spells and stuff are just default in the builder for players to use if you're sharing your content. Now, as a master tier subscriber to D&D Beyond, I can share my account in my campaign, and the players can use this content as part of the bundle that I share with them. So I'm not too upset by that. That's perfectly fine. But the second I stop paying for a master tier subscriber, I lose all that stuff. And they have added a checkbox for subscriber content, so you can toggle it on or off. So right now you have all the sources, legacy, non-core, 5e expanded rules, 5e core rules, subscriber content, 5.5 expanded rules, 5.5 core rules, and homebrew. So it is something that you can toggle on and off, but it does kind of suck limiting your players from using these cool, interesting things that are part of the content library. So one of the things, like some of the new spells, you have Astral Flood, Buzzing Bee, Insidious Rhythm, Leomon's Lamentable Belabourment,
Belabourment.
Belabourment, and Sticks to Snakes.
Leomon's Lamentable Belabourment, which is an old spell.
Yeah.
So part of me thinks that maybe some of this stuff will come out like when the Mel's Guide to Greyhawk comes out, because that some of this feels kind of thematic to that. But we don't know. I went through the FAQ and looked, and it didn't mention that any of the stuff was planned to be released in physical content. So now we have not only modules like the Asterion stuff being released, now we have specific individual content being gatekept behind all this stuff. And that's frustrating, because I'm going to have people coming up to me and be like, "Hey, I want to use this. Oh, let me look. What Sticks to Snakes? Oh, it's a spell I got off of D&D Beyond. It sounded cool." And I may or may not know exactly what it is off the top of my head. Annoying Bee. Why do they have Annoying Bee? I know they called it something else, but that's fucking...
Well,
that's not your...
More to the point, this creates a divide where you can potentially have at your game, whether at the table for people that play physically but still use D&D Beyond tools to make their characters, or playing online, people that pay for this or not can create characters and have spells and stuff that other people don't have access to.
Yeah.
And that feels not great.
Like the odds are very, very high that every bit of this comes out in book in physical form at some point.
Because why wouldn't you also want to make money doing that? But
Yeah.
the very fact that it's coming out online first without anybody else having access to it, and the fact that somebody like Chris, who works as a DM at least once a week, where he runs adventures that are supposedly officially WotC sponsored, has to basically accept this shenanigans anybody shows up with whatever Sticks to Snakes, Annoying Bee, and bullshit spell 3B. Because they said so, and because they bought the pack, and it's from Asterion's Guide to Biting People in the Neck. I mean, it's fucking dumb. Now, because not only that, like Chris, as a DM, who's volunteering his time every week, not really getting paid for it, and he has to. I mean, I know he has a master subscription to D&D Beyond, but now he has to, even if he didn't, to actually double check that his players aren't just showing up with nonsense. It's see, Jesus Christ.
And Jay, I hope that you're right and that they do eventually put this stuff in a book. I'll feel marginally less bad about it. But I don't know, since they've outright said that they are trying to transform themselves into a digital-first company and they are trying to drive subscribers to D&D Beyond, I would not be surprised if they say, this is why you want to be subscribed. These are exclusive things that will never be in print.
I think the outrage of them doing that would make them think twice about it.
There's
Because
there's been very
I don't.
little
there's
talk
very
about this.
there is very little talk about it and very little outrage about it. One, because they've already lost a lot of fucking people who would be pissed about this.
Mhm.
And two, it's the fact of nobody. If you don't follow this shit real close, it's not like the problems they had a couple of years ago, like the Pinkertons and stuff. Like, it's not going to hit that level because this is a thing of maybe they release it, maybe they don't in physical form. For me, it just
and at this point in time, I think most people have accepted the fact that DLC is part of life.
yeah,
If you're doing anything digitally.
it's
And I
it's
think
a
that's what they're counting on, is they know that the
I
most
agree.
outraged people
agree.
have already gone. So they're
Yeah.
just going to slide it in there, and they'll never give it to you in physical form because they don't need to.
yeah, maybe. I don't think they'll do that. I really don't. If they do, I won't be surprised, but I don't believe they would go that route. All that being said, it's kind of par for the course with shit giant corporations, and there's a reason we all of us moved away from 5e. Like,
Have you guys all watched Mythic Quest?
oh yeah, yeah.
I have not.
If you haven't, Danny Pudi, who's in a community, who plays like the geeky video nerd in community, he plays the monetization guy in Mythic Quest. And
Yeah.
Mythic Quest is basically the story of basically World of Warcraft, but by another name. And he is the slimiest, devious shit in the show of making money. But every idea anybody comes up with in that show, it is, how can we monetize that? How can we make more money about that? And I feel very much like in real life, somewhere at WotC or Hasbro, there's 1, 2, 15 of these motherfuckers behind WotC saying, how can we make more money off of this? And that answer is digital sales, because if we're selling digital stuff, we make it and just kind of host it somewhere. We don't really have to pay to print anything. We don't have to ship it off to get it shipped in from China or pay tariffs anymore. This is fucking great. We can just, we can just give people digital content. That's what Blizzard does now.
Yeah, rent the IP to everybody who wants it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was the dog shit third party made D&D thing where you were like
None of
Brits
us-
or some
yeah.
stuff that, God, what was that game? I tried to play through like one.
None of us
part it.
remember
It
the
was
name
terrible.
because it wasn't.
It was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and this is what I see is I don't think they're going to stop making books or anything like that, but I don't think they'll see any need to include this content in it. I think they can firmly say we're digital first. This D&D Beyond is now the premier home for D&D content. And yeah, we'll make books, physical books, but they're going to become
Now,
not the flagship product anymore.
I mean, so how do most people absorb D&D news these days? It generally seems to stem from the YouTubers, like the YouTube crowd.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I've definitely seen them already talking about this. I know Professor Dungeon Master put out one on this week. But I don't honestly. I'm seeing a lot less of just D&D YouTubers these days.
Yeah, he kind of goes into that whole aspect of it, how it's like a dying creed or whatnot. But I like I don't know how I want to feel about this, and it's kind of hard. On one hand, like, I'm glad that there's content being put out there that is D&D Beyond exclusive. Okay, I don't mind skins. I don't mind the VTT stuff. I, in fact, like it. I'm all for that. But when you start limiting spells and feats and backgrounds, eventually classes, to online only content, what stops you then from going to specific sources? And hey, these books are going to be only on D&D Beyond, which we've kind of actually already had. Even, you can argue whether or not Asterian's Guide to Biting You on the Schnoz is an actual book worthy or not, but that's still something that I would like to see in print. I think it would have done well in print. I have many people chomping at the bit for this Ravenloft release, for all the new classes that are coming out with it. And
New
we've had
with
discussion.
air fucking quotes.
Well, I've had discussions about that too. There are new ones. There's revamps of the old ones, So there is newer content coming out, but I'm like, you need to also, be okay with the fact that this is not going to be a Ravenloft setting. This is just going to be, a
Wait, here's
a
here's
guide to.
It's
here's the
Domains
point
of
that
Dread.
bothers me, Chris.
Yeah.
It's more than just creating digital content. It's subscription content. It is not a digital product that you can buy and keep. Every
Yeah,
other game
if I could
company,
buy a
when you buy a
PDF
book,
or get a print on demand, fine. Okay,
yes,
that's different.
exactly. Because the PDF I can keep. I don't have to keep a subscription. I bought your product. I bought your book. I even if I pay a little extra to get the PDF, I'm okay with that.
Like
to say, hey, here's another
Boo's
$10. You
Menagerie.
get the PDF too. But then I get to keep it, right? You can't take it away from me. But the subscription, if I don't keep paying you forever, I lose my content.
Same reason I don't pay for movies or digital movies on fucking Amazon Prime. I'm not doing that. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be interested to see how this is, falling in Japan and a couple of places where digital content is like shunned, whether or not they were going to physically release some of these books there. They may not even care at all. And like I said, I don't like the fact that the stuff may not ever come out to print. All I do have to say at the end of the day is Yar Heart Fiddly D, being a pirate's a life for me. And if they're going to keep all the stuff gated behind its subscriber content, which I am a subscriber, so I do get access to the content. If I lost my subscription tomorrow, I won't feel bad. I still can go out to places and find the stuff that I need to find. I'll lose my character builder, which is really all I use D&D Beyond for. I like their VTT. The VTT is looking pretty good, actually, now. Now they're actually spending time investing
You mean
money
the
in
3D
maps.
VTT that looks almost like Neverwinter Ice? No.
They're straight, like, Roll20 VTT that they have.
Man, that is so cool that they did this.
Yeah, they're like
6
2 decades late.
Companies did that after we actually need it. Good job, guys.
Stop paying for D&D Beyond. Just saying.
No. I use it too much.
May I recommend Hero Lab? One-time fee. Download all the stuff you need. Just saying. Making characters.
There are tools out there that work that are working well, and will continue to be the go-to home for people that don't want to use D&D Beyond. And I'm glad that those exist, because I'm glad those exist because they'll keep WotC in check. But whomever is at WotC telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, they're not making right decisions. Whether it's D&D or fucking Magic the Gathering, all they care about is the quick, instant profits. You look at like the secret layers that have been coming out and the things that have been pissing off a lot of people where like everybody wants to buy product X and they're only putting out enough for scalpers to grab them. That's eventually that's eventually what I'm going to be really afraid of, is that they start putting out limited edition content and the scalpers will grab it and then no one else will be able to get the stuff, and that's when I'll be really worried and figure out that my subscription is just not worth anything at that point in time.
Great way to handle scalpers, though, is just patience.
Yeah,
it's the short product for too long.
It's the short-term corporate view. Instead of taking a long-term of, hey, we want to have a sustainable corporation that garners goodwill, that people want to buy products from, so we're going to take a long-term goal of bringing more people in and keeping them here. It's all about, well, profit. We got a profit report next quarter, and we got to make the number go up. It's got to go up every quarter, so it's all short-term. What works right now? What works right now? What works right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
And as a stockholder of WotC or Hasbro stock, I get the reports too, and I can do my little tiny vote, but it doesn't fucking matter because too many people just want the quick returns and not the massive investment of things. So it's
Capitalism, wow, love it.
yeah.
All right, can we move on from how shitty WotC is?
One last thing. WotC's bad. All right, that's all.
Okay.
Way to end it. Yep.
All right. I have I got one thing before I actually launch into what I actually really want to talk about, and that's from my game today. I just have to as a commentary on the evolving of how to create deadly dungeons. So in our Greyhawk campaign, which I've talked about numerous times in here, our buddy Steve runs, and he's been running for going on 7 years now. We're getting towards the end of it, I imagine. We are looking for the phylactery of Vecna himself, which we believe is the Book of Vile Darkness. We think we found out where it was. We go to the place where we think where it is. We enter this cave. Weird puzzling thing at the beginning of the cave. It's like a silver rod with like a globe on the top of it, and some handsome looking dude's face kind of like screaming in it. It looks like we identify it, find out some guy that's in prison, don't know his name. Bunch of weird runes on the screen sash that's on it, like 20 different runes, and they all kind of, he had physical copies of what these runes are, and they all kind of like commas and things like that. Almost look like clef notes. And we're like, okay, scratching head, what the fuck is even happening here? So we're like, okay, let's pick this thing up, take it with us. We have no idea what we're supposed to do with this. So we go inside this cave, and I'm the high level rogue. I'm a 16th level rogue, and I'm moving ahead. And the previous session we had killed a dragon, raided his horde, and I had found a new item which I made some pretty good use of. And the new item is a figurine of wondrous power that turns into a nightmare. It basically summons you a nightmare. It's only a CR3 monster, but nightmares have two really cool properties for somebody who rides them. One, they confer fire resistance to whoever's riding them, and two, it can take the rider and up to 2 people within 5 feet of it into the ethereal plane and then back again at will. Super fucking cool for going through dungeons, especially as a rogue. I also got a fly speed of 90. It's only got 35 hit points, but whatever. So we go into this dungeon.
For a nightmare?
That's how many hit points that Nightmare has. It's CR3, dude. Anyway, doesn't matter. Maybe it's 60 hit points.
Look it up on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I won't.
68.
68, whatever. It doesn't have many. Especially for a 16th level party. It says CR3 monster. So I move on ahead, and we come across a number of different traps. I have a really high investigation, really high perception. I find most of them. We get to like an area where we descend into this almost like well with like a circular stair in the middle of it, and then there's another set of steps. And I'm like, okay, I'm flying on my nightmare, and I'm just going to slowly float down and observe the steps and try and investigate and see if I see any sort of triggers or traps. I'm expecting like a slide trap or something like that. And then I didn't notice it, but the wizard noticed that despite the fact that the room we're coming from and the steps that we're on are covered in bones and like debris and dust, the room at the bottom of the stairs is completely pristine. And we're like, there's a fucking trap there. There's a fucking trap there. And she's like, there's a trap there. I'm like, I think so too. You want to help me look for it? It's like, okay, sure. So stairs are clean. Let's get to the bottom of the stairs and we'll look from there. So we get to the bottom of the stairs and we start like inching our way across the room. And I'm rolling with advantage to make my investigation check. 24. DC was 25. Missed the trap.
Ooh.
Pit trap opens.
Oh.
She feather falls. I make my dex save and like dodge out of the way, but she falls down like 10 feet, and she essentially falls into the trash compactor in Star Wars, wherein she's going to get crushed. But the way that the module is written, the way the module is set up, is rather than your D&D Gary Gygax instant death, you fell into a pit and you get crushed. It is you fall into a pit and the doors begin closing behind you, and on initiative 10, another set of doors below you open again, and then another set of doors closes, and then another set of doors opens below you, and then another set of doors closes, and then that's the last one that crushes you to a pulp. So my commentary on like the way that game development has come over the years, because this was in the middle of second edition D&D, or middle towards the end of second edition D&D, where this module was written. It's written by Monty Cook. 1995 is a 20th anniversary module. I haven't looked up anything else about it, but the name of it is S6 Labyrinth of Madness. If you're familiar with all the different naming conventions of the old school D&D modules, S1 is Tomb of Horrors. So you know what these special modules are. They're basically modules intended to kill you off. But I just thought it was interesting commentary, whereas Gary Gygax in that same scenario would have just said, you guys die. Go make new characters. You've been crushed to a pulp. You cannot be resurrected. Monty Cook basically said, you have 3 opportunities to get out of this trap. If you don't get out of this trap, you're dead. And just even changing, just to skip ahead for like the next trap we encountered, there were basically like 3 false areas and then one right way to go. And of course, I'm the rogue trying to try it all out. And I'm like trying to do my high level bullshit and try to speed through it. And of course, I'm like, fuck it. I get on my nightmare. I ethereally go down this 200-foot deep tube and see what I can see at the bottom. And DM's like, you don't see anything because the space is not big enough to turn back into the material plane because it's only 6 feet wide. It's a large horse type creature. You can't come out of the ethereal here, so you have to go back up. It's like, okay, fine. We forgot about it for 2 hours. Find something that we're missing. We're like, okay, fuck it. Let's go check that chamber again. So I'm like, okay, this thing just clearly seems like a trap. It's just a 200-foot deep shaft with a ladder in it. It just seems like a fucking, it just seems bullshit. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, it's gonna be some bullshit where I get down to the bottom of it and I get to step on a stone and suddenly starts filling it with lava, because of course it's like in a volcano. Or it's going to fill up with water. I'm going to drown, and I'm not going to get up fast enough. So I'm like, okay, what other bullshit magic items can I pull out of my ass? Okay, I pull out my broom of flying, speed of 60. I'm like, okay, I'm getting on my broom flying, and I'm gonna fly down, and then check out the bottom, but I'm not getting off the fucking broom. So on my way down, I make a ridiculously high perception check to notice a glyph of warding on like the 20th rung down. And then I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Doesn't go off when I go by it? Nope, doesn't go off when I go by it. Okay. So clearly it's triggered by actually stepping on it. Get to the bottom, and I notice 3 glyphs on the bottom that are just quite obvious on the bottom. And I'm like, okay, there's just some traps down here, guys, and I fly back up. And the DM, of course, like, okay, you guys leave, but I'm going to go and tell you what it was. So when you get down to the 20th rung, it is a thunder wave.
Mm-hmm.
The thunder wave blows you off of the ladder, so you're now going to take 8d6 falling damage, and then you also take 7d8 from the thunder wave, and then you fall onto the 3 glyphs at the bottom, which included hold on, let me ask. Power word in this order: power word kill, animate dead, and levitate.
Wow. Okay, that's brutal.
Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit.
So you get low enough, then you instantly die to power word kill. Then you're instantly animated and levitated back to the top to fight your friend.
As a zombie, yeah. So even the fighter, if he had fallen down with like average damage, would have still died. And like even like the wizard only has the one reaction, so she can either like absorb elements from the thunder wave, or she can not fall. So she's gonna get power word killed too. So I'm like, I'm glad I flew down, and I'm glad I did not die to that, because that would have been the worst way to go. But the only way to survive it is if you had a death ward when you hit the bottom. But
that would do it.
That said, though, again, if this just the change in mechanics and the way that people thought about deadly dungeons, because I'm looking at the cover of Labyrinth of Madness. It's for a level 15 AD&D second edition party, which is fucking high level for AD&D. Which kind of leads me into my next thing, which is high level gaming, which is really what I wanted to talk about tonight. So what is y'all's experience with high level gaming? Like, other than like maybe a one shot, have you guys actually gotten characters up to like 20th level and above, 25th,
So
30th?
Who do you want to start
Yeah.
with?
Yeah, go.
Whoever wants to
yeah.
go.
Well, I'll
Yes.
go first. I'll go
Okay.
first. So in fourth edition, I got up to level 15 as a group.
Were
Denote
you running this or were you playing it?
I was running it.
Okay.
Fourth edition goes up to level 30. So about halfway. But there were issues, and if we talk about issues with fourth level, high level
We
gaming,
can get that. Yeah.
yeah. And then I've also run Tube of Annihilation, which was level 11. And again, that's past level 10, but at the same time, it's not level 17, 18, 19. And my current group in Waterdeep World Born Dead are 13, I believe, 13 to
Mhm.
15, depending on the player. So that's as high as I've got for that.
So 15th in 4th edition, 11th and 13th in 5th edition is what you've done.
About, yeah.
Jay, what's your experience?
I'm just thinking Chris is a sweet summer child here.
It's cute. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have played up to low 30s in D&D Basic. I have played in a campaign. I started in a campaign for 3rd edition. I was at 20th level. And there were other people in the group who were like low 30s. It was intentionally a high level campaign. I played that for about a year.
This
I
is
have
3rd edition, you said?
Yes, 3rd edition. I have run. I've run a number of one-shot 3rd editions at high level, and for 5th edition, I have played a game up to level 30, and I have run a game up to level 20. So
Okay.
there you go.
Played in a game up to level 30.
Yeah,
30,
and I've run one up. Yeah.
Okay. Christian, what do you got?
I have run high level D&D 18 and beyond in 1st edition, in 2nd edition, and 3rd edition. I've played in high level in Pathfinder in slash 3.5, both campaigns and one shots. And I have and I played high level D&D in Rules Cyclopedia, Beck Me stuff. We got up to basically the like masters level kind of tier. So into the upper 20s and low 30s.
Yeah. Same there. I did forget I've played in a 2nd ed campaign as well. That was very high level. I don't even remember exactly high. I think I was like level 50 something.
Okay. For my experience, I never really played to that high level in 1st or 2nd, and I never played Beck Me. I still have never played Beck Me. 2nd level, I think the highest level we got was maybe 12, something like that. I will say that the old gold box TSR SSI games, those by the 4th installment allowed you to go up to 40th level, which became ridiculous.
Yeah.
My first real experience with high level D&D would be in 3rd edition in Pathfinder. But I just want to kind of go through the evolution of all these things. The only I haven't really had really super high level 5th edition gameplay, but I will say, what level do you guys end in Rime the Frost Maiden, Christian? 15, 16?
I think we were 15 at the end of it.
15 felt like almost impossible to set up balanced encounters. And that's kind of where I want to go with the conversation here about how and why things have evolved the way they have since the beginning. So let's just start with like BECME. Basic is 1st to 3rd level. Everyone understands that. It's D&D.
Yep.
Expert is 4th to 14th level, which is really the sweet spot, in my opinion, of D&D. It's wilderness exploration. It's hex crawling. It's solving problems. It's working for the king. It's where most of D&D, even in modern day D&D, in my opinion, still takes place. Companion is where it gets a little weird, but interesting. So Frank Menser wrote Companion rules, and he assumed that the social role of characters changed, rather than just you become more powerful and get more spells and more hit points and more attacks. Now you guys are ruling domains, commanding armies, your political powers. You do some political stuff in between your adventures. You still end up having to go adventure. You still have to solve problems, but it's more like, you guys have ever played Dynasty Warriors? Like Dynasty Warriors. Like you're the great hero or general that has to go solve a thing that only you can solve because the local heroes can't take care of the problem. But it has it's probably 25% kingdom running and commanding armies.
More than that. For
More than
sure. When we played it, at that level, you are now mostly a domain ruler. Adventuring was actually rare. You only went on the big adventures when you had to get involved. Most of the time, you sent henchmen and companions and other crew to adventure.
So again, I've only read about this, but I've read about a lot of different experiences of different people doing it, and people had wildly different experiences at the table, starting at a companion. So if you go by like the actual modules, like starting with the Test of the Warlords, you become rulers, you build alliances, acquire territory, command armies, and then you have a couple of adventures and monster threats in between. And that's kind of like the iconic how companion was supposed to go. And, it was supposed to be sort of a hybrid play. Sometimes it ended up being 75-25, sometimes it would be 50-50. But it looks like a lot of people really still played it like traditional adventures, and rulership was sort of an abstract thing, mostly because people would get real excited about kingdom running stuff and then kind of fall back on just, hey, I still just want to adventure. But it's interesting that you said that since you guys, both you and Jay, had the experience with it, it's interesting to hear that it was more kingdom running than and less adventure.
You're playing two different games at that point, so it's not a surprise that some people just want to do the role play adventure, and other people love the crunchy number crafting and all, the social political stuff of running a kingdom. Not everybody's going to enjoy both aspects of that game,
and that's what
a lot
of
our parts of that game when we got to that point was when we would go for combat, it was mass combat. You were leading your troops into battle against
what was it called? War Machine or something?
Battle system.
The rules for companion.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, War Machine's a different tabletop.
Yeah, Battle System was the second ed.
No, I mean I'm serious. I think Frank Menser wrote something called War Machine for the rules.
He may have, yeah.
I know that's a 40K style.
Yeah, War Machine is Iron Kingdoms. Iron Kingdoms.
I forget what the
Warhammer style game
high level system was called, but I know that's mostly what I remember doing. Was we were you got to array your troops and kind of figure out what kind of your.
Either way, it's mass combat on a big scale, and you're right, Jay. Battle System was the version for AD&D, and the reason why I know that is because I delved way too deep into the Throne of Bloodstone series.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I've got the Battle System book sitting over there. I always like to look through the pretty pictures.
It's definitely interesting and very, very wargamey. So that but it didn't end at companion. That's just the back. We still got me. We got Master, where you're level 26 to 36, which apparently you guys actually got through as well, which involves shit like traveling through time and dimensions and cosmic disturbances, and not just preventing the kingdom from being destroyed, but preventing the world from blowing up, sort of thing. And apparently a lot of people didn't really like it. on account of the fact that because your characters were so powerful, especially the magic users, obviously, there were artificial constraints on power, like anti-magic zones, dimensional barriers, shit you couldn't teleport past. You couldn't, for example, do something like I did during my last session of D&D, where I hopped in a nightmare and went ethereal and went around something. Like there would be a dimensional barrier saying I can't.
Yeah,
So,
it felt very much like they weren't quite sure how to design adventures for all the skills that magic using characters, clerics, druids, and magic users and stuff had, and so the artificial limitation was there. Well, I don't have a better idea, so this is our balancing act.
okay, yeah.
Hmm.
And then finally, Immortal, where you ascend to godhood and engage in cosmic scale play, which is fucking wild to me. I mean, I've definitely played in games like have you ever played Scion? I know Christian has.
Yep.
There's a game called Scion from White Wolf where you play like a demigod and you just have escalating ridiculous powers. Where it's different from playing a superhero, but it's really kind of similar to playing a superhero. This is completely different, where you have your own domains and cosmic spheres like matter, energy, time, and entropy, and etc. And basically, dungeon crawling and defeating goblins and saving the farmer's daughters, a thing of you might not even remember how to do, because it's about maintaining cosmic balance and preventing, I don't know, the rise of Cthulhu.
Yeah, when you got to that point, you were advancing your cosmic interest, which means you were trying to convince nations of people to like adopt you as a patron, and you were trying to like whatever your sphere of influence, like if your thing was, I don't know,
yeah,
mountains, then you were, mountains in the earth and
you try
mining.
to get all the dwarves and the gnomes to
You're trying to get
worship
all
you or
that, and you're
something.
trying to advance the interest of like.
But how does that not become just like a divine tabletop board game
That was
simulation
kind of the
thing?
problem with it. That's why Immortals was, I think, people had issues with Masters, and it definitely had its issues. It even had more of an issue at the Immortals level, because it was, well, how do you turn this into a game, right? And it
Right.
was, they were trying to do something different, because I think this, and we'll see when we go through these, BECME/Rule Cyclopedia answered the question of high-level D&D different than every other edition. Every other edition
Yeah,
kind of
that's
does
why I
the
wanted to
same
start with
thing.
BECME.
And this edition said, okay, the expectation of levels of play is you're actually changing how you play the game, whereas most other systems are just number go up.
Yeah, BECME was definitely groundbreaking, and it was sort of its own thing. Third edition, high level, you're still just playing third edition as adventurers. Fifth edition,
Yeah.
when I played up to level 30, and we did play as deities in fifth edition, but it was still just 5e adventuring.
Sure. Yeah, it was just bigger
Yeah.
monsters and stuff. Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't know that Immortals really successfully posed a thing, but at least they were trying to do something different, right? They were trying to say, okay, well,
Yeah, I'm
what's
not
the
saying any of these things are wrong. Like that was certainly innovative and groundbreaking for that time period of game design. But definitely not for everybody. I mean, I
no?
don't think I'd ever want to play that,
I
especially if
would.
it's. And I think the other assumption that I think Menser, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't want to play that as a character that I had played for 7 years and gotten to godhood. I don't think I want to show up on a Saturday afternoon with my chips and dip and beer and decide how I'm going to get the gnomes to worship me this week. That doesn't sound fun to me.
To me, it sounds incredibly fucking fun.
It
Sounds like a
sounds
standard
like
Saturday for me.
I think
IRL.
that I think that
Well,
it
you're
could
just
be
huge. Like gnomes to worship you anyway.
fun for a couple of sessions. Like you've made it all the way, you actually perform the thing to ascend. Like there's a whole process of ascending where you have to acquire all these materials, and there's a whole lot of stuff you have to do to get to that, which is also
Yeah.
covered in Mortals. And I think that stuff is kind of neat. And then I think it would be fun to maybe do a couple of sessions as kind of like this is our wind down, the denouement of the campaign of you've ascended to immortality. You get to do maybe like a cool thing, or you establish yourself in the world, and then it's time to do something different.
Yeah, I sometimes look at some of the. Have you seen there's some guy that has been running the same game with his friends from middle school since like for like 40 years or something like that. Have you guys seen this guy
I have,
online?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I have to wonder, like, he's, he got interviewed and they was talking about, oh yeah, when I have like, 40 notebooks of information, like blah, 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 and I've cataloged it all. And, if they go back and visit this farmstead that they visited, in 1995 in real time, I'll look up and see what happened. So this is the daughter of the so-and-so. I'm like, but if you're playing the same characters, unless you're getting like 10 XP per fucking session, how are you not gods or dead or something at this point in time? Like, it's cool that the guy running the game for so long, but how are they still the same characters?
They may not
Like,
be the same characters.
They very
some
well
of them
may.
definitely were. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. Let's move on to AD&D First Edition, which is actually kind of simple because they didn't have any formalized epic levels or super high levels. In fact, they had level caps for pretty much everything except for like Thief. But the thing that Gygax did in AD&D First Edition, which is really his edition, is specifically in some of the different character classes as they went up levels. Because of course, much like in Shadowdark nowadays, you had naming conventions. Like you didn't become a wizard to like a level 13 wizard, for example. But in that chart for your level progression, a fighter by 8th level will start building a stronghold and start attracting followers. Paladins do the same thing. Rule territories. A cleric would found a temple. You're expected to basically, by just the level chart, do more powerful and cooler things because it's in your class design. You start attracting dudes that's like hear about your heroic efforts to go slay the dragon. They want to follow you. They want to follow you into battle somewhere.
You start attracting dudes.
Thieves start creating thieves guilds and things like that. And magic users are expected to conduct magical research and create spells and things like that. But there's nothing really else for them. I mean, fighters became a lord by level 9. Wizards were quote unquote wizards by 11, and clerics by level 8 were patriarchs. And at that point in time, they got their titles. Their followers have arrived, and it's just kind of assumed that you're still going off and adventuring because death is a real thing in First Edition and really easy to happen even at high level, because high level is only level 11. There's save or die effects that you can easily fall to: poisons, petrification, level drain, Gygaxian traps. So tons of shit could still kill you. So like D&D First Edition really didn't, in my opinion at least, didn't really have a high level. They had like a higher level, but I never ever playing First Edition had the feeling that I'm going to walk in there and it's fine because I've got 6 buffs that says I'm immune to fear, immune to poison, and I immune to level drain because I've got a death ward on or whatever the fuck. Like, at no point in time, if I think I'm going to fight a boss, like, it's never a life or death battle because there's always going to be some bullshit, or there's just going to be something that was ridiculous. I mean, the only thing that I would say about First Edition is that, yeah, thieves and fighters and everything leveled up a lot faster than wizards, but once wizards got 9th level spells, man, much like in every other later edition, I mean, they're the only ones that were basically gods. As soon as you get wish, gate, and teleport, it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of stopped with 5th edition. Like I've played a high level wizard, and let me tell you, they ain't that powerful in 5e, but in first and second and early editions, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you also had no limit on magic items in First Edition. So, like,
Yeah.
a lot of the times, like, the fact that you're high level or you've been around a long time, you've got a golf caddy full of fucking magic items that you can pull out for just such an occasion. A bunch of artifacts and stuff. So, but anyway, that's what kind of what I thought for First Edition. I don't know if you guys have any other opinions, but
I've never played first edition, so I will just
okay.
go off of what you say.
Okay. I mean, Tomb of Horrors is really the only highest level for AD&D first I played. So
Yeah, first edition was pretty much, they had some, especially if you look in the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, it definitely had some things about constructing strongholds, building up your territory, and that sort of thing. But that kind of local, I'll call it like a regional, becoming like a regional power, like not necessarily the king, or you're not like nations like competing, like ruling the Roman Empire, like competing on a world scale. You were like, okay, I'm a fighter that's become a knight, and maybe I'll become like, the level of a count or something like that, and have a small area under my control with my friends. And that was kind of the end game or so of first edition. You build up your followers, you could hire mercenaries and henchmen and that sort of thing to fill out your keep and your structure.
And second edition operates almost the same way.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, second edition. I guess we can move on to second edition, but second edition kind of like just expands more on it, except it kind of removes the level cap. Whereas you had level caps in first edition, there really weren't in second edition. And THAC0 and HP keeps going up, but it doesn't go up as exponentially. You don't get like a D10 each time you go up a level. You get like +3 or +1 or +2, whatever it is. But things that second edition did do is that since second edition was really around for as long as it was, and because they pushed out so much product during that time, there were a bunch of different approaches to how high level D&D worked. And I think probably the easiest to, and the first to go to, would be probably Forgotten Realms. High level play, you've got the Netherese, you've got beyond 9th level spells, you've got Archmages, Ancient Evil, you've got Elminster getting involved everywhere, Kelbin, Zastam, the Seven Sisters, blah blah blah. And there's a famous criticism of that time of Forgotten Realms where it doesn't matter what we do, the NPCs are always more important than the PCs. You're just following in their footsteps. Oh, we're doing this thing that Dritz de Werden did. Cool. We're doing the thing because Elminster told us to go there. Great. And that's fine and all for the time period, but it's definitely not a type of game that I'd want to play. But Planescape, I think, Christian, you can probably talk to this the most, obviously. Some of the artificial hindrances from I guess master and expert or companion tier of Beckme kind of carry over to Planescape, because there's certain spells or spellcasters that don't work on different planes and things like that, but they basically made a system to make it make sense and a reason for it to work that way. And even if you got to become a very high level character, if you set foot on a plane that was opposition to your god or something like that, you can suddenly cast third level spells or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but you can obviously expand on that more. You've read through all of those books where I've only kind of skimmed. So what do you think about how Planescape, and I guess who wrote Planescape? Was that Zeb Cook that wrote that?
Zeb Cook, Monty Cook contributed a bunch too, as well as Colin. What's his last name? Colin McComb. And there's definitely other people. Bruce Hurd had some input on some parts of it.
Right.
But Zeb Cook was the kind of architect of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Planescape, you came in and they had, tiers for all level of play, but working at no matter what level you are, the kind of the Planescape kind of went back to this thing of it was always going to be weird and strange, but it was also like the planes are infinite. You cannot fight everything in the planes. It's just not possible.
Yeah, you can't just brute force your way through everything.
So it really emphasized of you are playing like a canny survivor. You are going to talk to people you might not normally talk to. You're going to talk to demons and devils, and your goal is to acquire knowledge, to explore, and to only fight the fights that you have to. And one of the things it did, it changed up magic. Magic was different on every plane. Every plane affected it, so there were some spells or some schools of spells which is outright not work for the PCs. The natives of the plane could always do the things that they wanted to do. Priests had the problem where they had to count around the ring of like, how far away they were from the domain of their god, and they would lose spellcasting levels that minute. So yeah, you could, if you were, if you were a lawful good follower of some lawful good cleric and you ended up in the abyss, you could do 9 levels worth of spellcasting ability, meaning you
Yikes.
could go
Yeah.
from having 5th level spells to only having a couple of 1st level spells, and because you just couldn't. Now they did make things that could give you some relief from that, like spellcasters could find and learn things called spell keys, which would allow a spell that wouldn't normally work in that plane to work normally. Priests could find power keys, which would hold a little bit of their spell casting within that key. As long as they had it on them, they could cast some of the spells they would normally be able to. So, but yeah, it had a bunch of different things that emphasize learning the information about where you are going, and then coming up with strategies and the items, and really prepping for every adventure. Like, okay, we're going to the abyss. We need to know what layer we're going to, who's in charge there, how does it affect magic, and what do I have to do in order to be successful there.
That's awesome. I mean, that's definitely an interesting way of approaching kind of the power scaling. So, I mean, even if you're not prepared and you're going to the wrong plane, you're just, you're going to the plane of fire. Hey, they don't have air there. Oh,
yeah, it rewarded
so-
wizards for having a breadth of spells, because you needed to have lots of spells in your book, because depending on where you're going, as many as half of your spells could not work right or could have altered effects. So you had to figure out, well, what kind of spells are we going to need to survive there, because that was always the challenge of survival. And then what kind of spells will not work, and what can I use that will work?
Right.
Hey guys, recruiting for Molten Core, Frost Wizards only.
So, like I was saying though, like it's different in every different campaign setting they did. So there's also Birthright, which after reading through Companion, I feel like Birthright is kind of just AD&D's second edition's version of that, because I've played Birthright when, Christian, you converted it over to Pathfinder 1E, and we probably spent 60-70% of the time doing ruling things and kingdom management and preparing for war and diplomacy, domain turns and stuff like that. And then a little bit of adventuring when all of us, got together, even though we don't really like each other, just to take care of a problem, and then go back to scheming.
Yeah, Birthright really adopted that kind of aspect of BECMI of like, let's get straight to the domain level play, and like
Yeah, because
let's
we were
make
not
that
high
the
level. We were
central.
like 5th level, 7th level,
Yeah.
something like that.
It was trying to make domain play the central feature of the game.
Yeah, and I thought that was fun. And I thought that was a really well described and well. We never got to the end of it, but I thought it was a really well thought out way of doing it. I really
Birthright
enjoyed
might
the
be what I'll run
domain
next
turns.
after Planescape.
And there's Dark Sun.
Mhm.
In Dark Sun, when you become, the more powerful you become, especially if you're psionic or a cleric or a sorcerer or whatever, you start physically transforming, and things just get weird. And apparently world alterings. I'm not super familiar with Dark Sun. I've only know what I've read, which is really almost the Wikipedia entries. So if anybody else has any more on that and the Sorcerer Kings, then
I do.
Then me, go ahead.
I mean, most of what's known though stems from the novels or just lore.
No.
As far, go ahead.
They did put out books that actually detailed it.
Yeah,
Gave players the process for doing it.
Yes.
So you could become defilers. You would have to be a wizard, an evil wizard that used defiling, meaning you're destroying the land around you to power your magic. You would have to gain equal level of psionics, and you could start the process of becoming a transformation called becoming a dragon king, which is what the sorcerer kings really were. They were dragons. You had to start out being a 20th level wizard and a 20th level psionicist.
Jesus Christ!
So effectively, to do that, you've got to be 40th level. Yeah.
Because humans could do a thing in second edition called dual classing. It's not the same thing as multi-classing. You would start out as one class, you would stop advancing as that class, and then you would swap to another class. And once you met or exceeded your level in your previous class, you then had access to the abilities of both classes to whatever level you were.
Yeah, I did that once. John ran a Waterdeep political intrigue campaign once, and I started off as a fighter. But I had a fairly high wisdom, and for whatever reason, like there's something that happened to make him believe in whatever god he ended up following. And I remember I got to like level 5 as fighter. I was like, can I like convert to a cleric? It's like, oh no, there's a human change class option. You can actually just stop being a fighter and become a cleric. I'm like, okay. And then when I hit like 6th level as a cleric, he's like, and now you're also still a fighter. I'm like, why did I forget all of this stuff?
Yeah,
I was being a cleric.
It was a weird
so
system.
now I have weapon specialization. Neat.
But Dark Sun did leverage it for their high levels. So that was the high level for Defilers. There was for Preservers, you became an Evangeon, which is the good guy version of it. You became some sort of celestial-y type creature. And then they even
Dark Sun had good guys.
Yeah, they eventually released it
yeah.
for they released rules for like druids and elemental clerics, where the elemental clerics you would literally start turning into an elemental.
Yeah.
So if you're a fire cleric, you would eventually turn into like a fire primarch, and druids would become spirits of nature.
Yeah, so just like talking about these different paths that people took back in the 90s, basically with the different campaign settings, I'm kind of forming an opinion that maybe the best way of addressing high level gameplay is to integrate it intentionally into your game setting rather than to write a generic, hey, this is what happens after X level. Because Birthright, it has the cool parts of companion, but you don't have to be high level. Dark Sun definitely seems to have some really cool things for high level characters if and when you get there. Forgotten Realms, it's more the same. But is anybody familiar with like Dragonlance in second edition? I never played Dragonlance.
Oh, I definitely have. Dragonlance, oddly enough, and it's a little surprising. It's not that you can't go to high level, and there's definitely high level play.
Right.
It's not really and truly built for it.
Right. Okay.
Like Dragonlance, it hits best at sort of mid-level. And by mid-level, I mean like 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere in that range.
Where you're looking to find the actual Dragonlance to go do the thing you're supposed to do, rather than just roll stuff.
Yeah, and despite the fact that the game is full of dragons to fight and everything, which is why you can easily do it at high level, it just isn't really the design or the intention. Like the game just plays best at sort of mid-level.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the story of most D&D, to be honest. But anyway, so I think that's it as far as like second edition. Other than the fact that really, really, really late, right before TSR shut down, and I guess WotC took over and started developing third edition. There was remember the black cover books of second edition when they re-released the second edition books with a bunch of covers, and everyone kind of called it 2.5 or whatever.
The shame of second edition.
The player's option, the dungeon master's option. There was a book that I didn't even know existed until I was doing research for this, called The Dungeon Master's Option High Level Campaigns, which gives you formalized rules for high level spellcasting, levels beyond 20, and epic level abilities and heroic levels of play. And apparently it just never became foundational to anything or anybody in second edition, and nobody really used it because, again, most campaigns don't go that high level.
Yeah.
They just usually stop between 10 and 15 the same way they do nowadays. But yeah, so that's second edition. Well, let's move on to third. This is where I'm most familiar.
And this is where shit gets crazy.
Shit gets fucking weird in third edition and crazy. So third edition has a book called the Epic Level Handbook, and this comes out before 3.5 comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So it never gets updated at 3.5, although there's, I think, supplements you can download online, errata and stuff like that. But things got crazy quick because as you leveled up in the Epic Level Handbook as a fighter or a rogue or something like that, you can end up with a plus, 50 to attack, and like I don't know, as a rogue using 2 weapons, 9 attacks around, something like that. 60 plus AC, a spell save DC that is literally impossible to make if you're a spellcaster, and some of the abilities just became absolutely absurd. And they had some epic level spells that were examples in the third edition Epic Level Handbook. And I want to say that there were a bunch of epic level spells written in the Netheril portions of the third edition Forgotten Realms books too. But all of the examples are pretty crazy. But the way that epic level spells were designed was actually for the characters to actually design the spells. So they had like a point construction system on how to design the spells to do things like, I don't know, destroy cities, summon an army, transform a continent, alter fucking time.
Don't forget summon Dragon Swarm.
I mean, yeah, some of the examples. And what was weird is that you had to get a specific like ridiculously high skill check on a spellcraft DC to do some of these.
Mhm.
Like one of the lower level ones was Summon Dragon Knight, DC 38 spellcraft check to summon this thing, and it gives you like this is one of the earlier times when they start showing you how to spend XP and gold to make stuff. So so it's 342,000 gold piece to develop the spell. 7 days, 13,680 of your XP spent. You need to have the seed of a summon DC 14s. You need to have blah blah blah. And a spell basically you cast a spell and you summon an adult red dragon. Which, like I said, this is one of the lowest level spells that you can do. Some of the crazier spells you can do. Let's see here. Spellcraft DC 419. Vengeful Gaze of God. Target takes 305 d6 damage and you take 200 d6 damage. Cool. 170 summon a tsunami. A 1,000 foot tall tsunami. Like, this is the kind of crazy shit that you could do in epic level 3rd edition. And again, it's fine for a game or two. If you have like an idea you want to do some weird shit, you want to have some 30th level characters go take on a god, that's fine. But there were just crazy actions and reactions and contingencies and trigger effects and combinations of things going off, and spellcasters could layer buff upon buff upon buff upon buff, and then cast an epic level spell called Peripety, which then counterspelled anything, and then they also did something else with it, and just like it got really. I mean, I ran like 1 or 2 games and played 1 or 2 games for a couple of sessions using these rules, and it was crazy. And of course, the disparity that was the worst is, of course, epic level fighters versus epic level wizards and clerics. Epic level fighters, they attacked more, they attacked harder, and they could take more hits. Epic level wizards, they rewrite fucking reality. You're like,
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Now, let's be very clear on that. That's at the expense of a lot of XP
Sure.
and money.
Sure. But even still, things that were not really at a lot of expensive, a lot of XP and money, permanent flight, battlefield control, and mortality workarounds. You can create fucking spells. You can create a clone of yourself to continue your research. Which doesn't have the same problems of the 9th level clone spell that is in the regular book, because you created a 10th level version that says you can have 3 of them, and they're actually awake all at the same time. I mean,
Yep.
I will say it made you feel like an Avenger. It made you feel like a fucking demigod. It made you feel like a superhero. But it also felt impossible to really run a good game with it.
Having run a couple of one shots of I don't even remember 30. I ran one. I think they were like 35th level or somewhere in there. And you're not casting the super fucking crazy high level magic, but you're still casting crazy ass spells and doing crazy attacks. And it was a party. We started, I don't even remember it, probably at like noon and ran till 2 in the morning or something, because that's how long it takes. Like it just takes
these were not slow
so
combats
long.
at all.
No, God, no. When every person in that game has 8 attacks around and triggered effects and it's a fucking slog. Way worse than anything 5th edition has to offer.
Yeah. So and like I said, 3.5 didn't really have an epic level version. They just decided not to rework that. But I think there's probably erratas around somewhere. But it's still just ridiculous and silly. Brief aside out of D&D for a second, which is because it's so tangentially related, is Pathfinder 1E, which is really D&D 3.5 with archetypes and rather than prestige classes. And what they did towards the mid to end of Pathfinder 1E, rather than having characters go above level 20, they created a book called Mythic Adventures. This was Sean Reynolds and Jason Bowman, and it's actually really different and interesting because you had a parallel level progression. So, for example, you could be a level 12 fighter and a level 3 mythic character. And being a mythic character of any sort comes with its own, certain perks that give you certain things that you can do. Like, for example, just being a tier 3 mythic character, you're hard to kill, so you auto stabilize if you go to 0 hit points. You have amazing initiative. You add your mythic level to your initiative bonus. Recuperation. This is back in the day when you actually had to get healing to heal overnight. You didn't just heal all your hit points. You basically spend 8 hours of rest and fully healed by the time you woke up. But then you would have essentially your mythic class. So you'd have the Archmage, which were the wizards and the sorcerers. You'd have the champion, which were the fighters, rangers, and paladins typically. Then you'd have the guardian, which could be like a monk, could also be a paladin or a barbarian. And then you had the hierophants, which were the clerics and the druids. And the rogues were rogues and bards were typically marshals, but they could also be champions. But they all get really interesting abilities. And I played in a game that went from level 1 characters who became, I think, level 1 mythic characters by level 3 or 4, because you're supposed to do it early. You're not supposed to wait till level 20 to do it. And you essentially progressed along the mythic path as you did mythical things. Like, think about Hercules in the trials that he overcome, that sort of thing. Not just I defeated some monsters and gained some XP, because XP was irrelevant to get leveling up in mythic. Like, you actually had to do X number of mythic things before you level up to the next mythic tier. It was really quite interesting, and it played, I thought, very well as, say you're a blessed character of X god, or you're a demigod. Maybe you're a Hercules sort of analog or something like that. And it worked very well up to about tier 3 or 4. Beyond that, it got pretty absurd. It got impossible AC inflation, attack numbers that went through the roof. All of the spellcasters could cast 2 spells around, which basically was the reason why 3.5 was invented, because we got rid of haste in 3rd edition, where every spellcaster could cast 2 spells around. And it was just different, narratively different. It was, but it didn't have anything to do with sort of the companion solution of changing your social role, you becoming a leader, you becoming a king, or a guy leading an army or something like that.
3rd edition just focused on the adventuring.
It really did.
You were just it was just bigger numbers. I'm doing exactly the same thing, but all my pluses are better, and
yeah. I will say, in my preference, I Pathfinder's approach to the high level play with Mythic on top of it, because it felt, at least as a DM, a lot more manageable to run things against, because once you had Mythic characters in your game, you could use Mythic monsters, which, in 5th edition you had like legendaries and stuff like that. They introduced things that are similar to that with Mythic monsters that regular ass monsters in 3rd edition did not have. It was an interesting time, and definitely I did not dislike playing that, and it was probably the longest time I ever played with high level quote unquote play. Waples, I'm gonna let you take this. 4th edition, buddy.
Do you want to get into 4th edition? Because I can go on for a bit, but
we're right around.
We're well over an hour, man.
Yeah, we're pushing 2 hours. Do we want to save it for next week?
I think this is a good break.
We can't next week. We got an interview next week.
Well, next time we talk about this, because it's at this point in time where I think there's a major shift, not only in how the games are handled, but in the industry as a whole, which I kind of want to bring up.
Okay.
There's
next time.
Yeah, there's
we
a lot there.
We can do part 2 of this, because, like, and also I kind of want to like have a sum up at the end of this where we kind of troubleshoot what would we like to see in a high level version of D&D, or do we not even like high level D&D? We just want to crawl in dungeons and kill monsters. I don't know. I mean, it's personal preference, obviously, but what happens when everybody gets high level?
Yep.
I
definitely think
stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah, I definitely think we got more to talk about this. So yeah.
Oh, did Matt Mercer address that in his top 10?
So he talked about a number